Today we're going to do a removal and installation of a Toro Dingo TX1000 wide track. We're also going to go over how to change the bogie wheels at the bottom of the track system. This is only for the removal of a track for a 1000 wide track. It's different from a narrow track a little bit, and it's different from all the 400 and 500 series. And first thing we're going to do is come in here to the, first thing I'm going to do is the track that you want to remove, go ahead and get it up off the ground. As you see, I got a brace on the back and jacked up in the front. You're going to come in, this little hole right here, kind of hard to see, but there's a bolt right here, a bolt and nut that sit back here on your, it's called your tensioner nut, and that just kind of holds it in place once you get it tightened enough. So you're going to remove the 7/16 bolt and nut from the assembly, and go ahead over here to this front tensioner wheel, and there's a big nut on the front. Go ahead and get a wrench or a ratchet and take that nut totally off, and there's a washer behind it, and you can take the washer off as well. You're going to come back in, you're going to start releasing the tension on this track. So what I do is I take this 1/2-inch ratchet right here with no head on it, and it's opposite. So if I want to loosen the track system, I put the ratchet in the tightening position. And if you notice back here on this tensioner nut or tensioner bolt, there's a little receiver hole, if you can see back there, that's going to receive this ratchet head. So you stick the ratchet head in to the receiver, okay? And it's going to stick out a little bit from your machine. Some people have longer ratchets, which are cool. What I do is I have a little pipe that I don't know where it is right now. Oh, here it is. Take this pipe right here, stick it on the head, and that gives me a little bit more lever arm, so it's easier to loosen the track. And what you're going to do is crank up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's going to release the tension on the track system. And what you're going to see is this little bolt right here is going to move this way, and moving this way means the traction system up here is going to slide back this way to make it easier to get this track off. If you're tightening and this little indicator knob, whatever you want to call it, goes that way, then you're going the wrong way. You want it to go that way. And once you're in about this position right here, then the track is collapsed enough to take it off. And once it gets to that point, come over here where you already have this nut and this nut and washer off, and this outside tensioner wheel, go ahead and pry it off this way, away from the machine, and take it off the machine, and you can get the track off. The track will slip off. Starting from here, just pull it out, and it'll come off the rest of the track system. So as you can see, this track is off. And once this tensioner wheel here is removed off the axle, then you just take the track on this side and then slip it off. It comes off pretty easy. There is another washer here on the inside. This washer right here. And before you install your new tensioner wheel back on, just throw some grease on this side of the washer and the other side of the washer. Now that the track off, it's probably a good time to check your tensioner wheels and bogie wheels and make sure that they're still in good working order. So here's your tensioner wheel here. Just go ahead and spin it. It should spin fairly freely. That tensioner wheel is in good working order. Take this tensioner wheel, put it back on that axle right there and spin it. Make sure that's in good working order. If there's massive resistance or it just won't turn, it means the bearings have failed inside these tensioner wheels. And you either have to replace with a new tensioner wheel, or you can press out the old bearings and put in the new bearings. These particular tensioner wheels for the wide track use 2 bearings. One bearing here and one bearing on the other side, and they're butted up against each other. You'd have to take a press and press both of the bearings out and then press the new bearings in. And just keep in mind that if the bearing has failed and the ball bearings have come out and eaten a groove in the actual housing of this wheel, that the new bearing you put in might not fit properly and might fail fairly quickly. So you're going to have to make that judgment call on how you want to do it. Sorry, someone just texted me. All right, so now you're down here with your bogie wheels. This one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just take your hand, you spin them. And they should spin, freely with no, they should spin. They shouldn't have much of a resistance at all. If they need to be replaced, what you do is you take this, let's say that this bogey wheel right here needs to be replaced. Take this, take a ratchet and take it on this bolt head right here, and on the other side where you can't see is the nut that holds that bolt. So put a wrench on there, wrench it off, and then remove this bolt. It's a pretty long bolt, and it'll come out, and this bogey wheel will drop out, and you might have to I'd have to jack my machine up a little bit higher to remove it. So jack it up high enough to the bogey wheel comes out. And how the new bogey wheels are, if you want to replace it with a new bogey wheel, is you just do the opposite. You stick this one back in, put the nut and bolt back through on the frame, and tighten down. If you want to try to salvage your bogey wheel, you can press the bearings out. This bogey wheel has one bearing here, one bearing on the other side here, and then between the bearings is a spacer. So you can press both the bearings and the spacer out, and then put new bearings in it, and then it should be good to go. Also keep in mind that if your ball bearings have broken and failed, and it's ate up this, the black housing around the bearing, that when you put a new bearing in, it might not sit properly and could fail on you. So you're gonna have to make that judgment call as well. So this particular unit, all the tensioner wheels are good, both of them, all the bogey wheels work great, so they don't need to be replaced. And this track right here, how to tell if your track is good or not is if you look, the business end of these tracks are all these lugs on the inside. These things right here. This track is not perfect, but it has a good amount of life in it. Once these lugs have been eaten away, then it is time to replace your track, because the lugs are what basically drives the track system. And if your tensioner wheels and your drive wheel right there have nothing to grab onto as far as these lugs, then your track will start to fall off, and it's time to replace with a new track. So some of the lugs, like this lug right here, is not in very good condition, but this lug and this lug behind it still have some life in it. So you're gonna have to make that decision as if you need to replace your track or not. Usually the lugs on the inside will fail quicker than the outside tread will wear to nothing, unless you're using these tracks on, or using your machine on asphalt and concrete. They tear up the outside treads of these tracks a lot quicker than on grass, mainly grass use. And it's just kind of the life of a track machine. Okay, now we're going to reinstall the track back on the TX1000. So you take your track when it's off the machine, and you start putting it on here first on this drive wheel. Stick it on the drive wheel, kind of push it down underneath the bogey wheels, and then you're going to come over this side and you're going to force it on to that back tensioner wheel here. Okay, and push the track on till the track grabs on the other side of the tensioner wheel, so it's on. And you want to push it until this edge of the lugs right here of the track is touching the side of the tensioner wheel. Once you do that, the track is ready to tighten up and stick on your other tensioner wheel. So take your other tensioner wheel, as you see I greased that washer right there. Take your other tensioner wheel and stick it on back on your stud, and then push it all the way back as far as it'll go. Take your washer next, put that on over your tensioner wheel, grease the inside of the washer where it touches the tensioner wheel, and then put your nut on. You can tighten the nut all the way, or you can wait till your track is totally tensioned to tighten it down. Then you're going to start tightening the track system. It's just going to be reverse what we did last time. So in here is the receiver hole for a 1/2-inch ratchet with no head on it. Since we're going to be tightening the track system, you want to take your ratchet and put it in the loosening position, and stick it in there, put it in the receiver hole, and start cranking down. So what you're going to see, this light's terrible. It's because it's burnt out. And what you're going to see is, as you're tightening it down, this knob right here is going to be going this way, as you tighten your tensioner. And to know where you need to be as proper tension for the track is this knob right near here needs to be anywhere in this green area right here. Once it's in the green area, you're good to go. And then just take your little 7/16 nut and bolt and stick it back in there in that tensioner head right there in that hole right there. Lock it down and make sure you tighten this nut down. The last nut that you put on the outside of your tensioner wheel, make sure that's good and locked down. Once you've done that, you can take your machine off the off your jacks and you are good to go. And that's where you should be.